for all the bad things I've ever said about One Piece, I still do have a level of respect for this series as a whole. And that's only because of three major reasons. Right. From lowest to highest on this list, number 3 would be the East Blue arc. No matter what I ever say about the series One Piece, I cannot deny that East Blue was probably one of the best arcs in all of Shonen history, because as an introduction arc, it was superb. It introduced all the characters that we would come to follow, gave us all of their backstories, for the most part, with the exception of a few that were left for later details. And it gave us like the general outlook of what the entire series was going to be about later on. Although I kind of believe that Oda went back on what he originally started to write, because it turned from an adventure to some sort of to all of this crap that we're dealing with nowadays. But getting back to the arc, it had some of the most epic moments in the entire series, like Mihawk's first appearance when he cut down Don Krieg's galleon ship, and when he fought against Zoro. And then we also have Arlong Park. That entire arc was just epic to me. I love Arlong Park, and I just love Arlong as a character. It was the best time for Nami, and like I stated before, I wish that somehow, some way, he could have killed Nami so that I could think of her as a good character, because up until Arlong Park, she was a good character. Going to Alabasta and beyond, it just went bad for her. If One Piece had gone the way it started, being one big long adventure instead of turning into all this politics and like morals and like inheriting wills and stuff, it would have been a much better series. It was all we wanted was adventure, going through islands and finding One Piece. That's all the show had to be. And if it had done that, it probably would go down as one of the greatest mangas of all time. Or because like it's the same way most people feel about Dragon Ball. Like, the original Dragon Ball was an adventure. Dragon Ball Z turned into like all these epic space battles and stuff. But the difference is, Dragon Ball Z was still good after it made transition from an adventure to a save the world plotline. Number 2. The characters. I just absolutely love like most of the characters in this series, excluding if you exclude the main cast, because these groups that Oda's created, like the Shichibukai, the Admirals, the Yonko, the Supernovas, all of them are superb in my opinion, with some few bad people in each one. Like for the Supernovas, I don't like Drake, I don't like Law, I don't like Basil Hawkins. And for Shichibukai, I don't like Gecko Moria, not that much. He's a cool design, but it's what he's done in the series is like meh at best. I don't really like Shanks all that much. I used to like Blackbeard back when he fought against like Ace and was Impel Down, but after what he did to Whitebeard, the way he killed him, he instantly just dropped off my list, because that was just absolute terrible. Just terrible. And as a Shichibukai, I absolutely detest Boa Hancock, because all of her motivations throughout the entire series have been so vague and shallow and just hollow overall, because there's just no substance to what she does. Hell, Gecko Moria may be useless, but at least he has his moments within the series. Out of the Supernovas, I like Kid the best out of all of them, and I like all of the Admirals equally. I love Bartholomew Kuma, Mihawk, Doflamingo, Crocodile, still pretty cool to me. Jinbei is my favorite Shichibukai though. And that's not including the guys from East Blue yet, who are like Don Krieg and Captain Koro and Arlong, who are still some of my favorite characters in the entire series overall. Some of these characters are just too good for a series like One Piece. Like I said, Mihawk, Kuma, Doflamingo. It's like if they were in some of the other shonens, they could really show what they could do and use their full potential there. Under a mangaka like Eiichiro Oda, these characters have no backstory whatsoever. We know nothing about them. And that's what makes it so hard to endure this series, because all Oda's doing is just stringing us along with all these finer details, but not giving us what we actually want. And it's very convenient that I'm mentioning backstory, because this is my third point. And now for my final reason why I love One Piece, and that would be the flashbacks. I don't care what Eiichiro Oda does in present time, but whenever he goes into a flashback, he usually puts his full attention into it, and it just becomes some of the best writing I've ever seen out of any series. Whenever Oda does a flashback, I will always give my full attention to it. By far, my favorite flashback in the entire series would be the Mont Blanc Northern one, followed by the Nami Arlong one, and then Brooks flashback, and finally Fishman Island at the bottom. But even though it's at the bottom, it's still one of the best part of the series. The only flashback I didn't care for would be Rollins, because it didn't really have an effect on me that much. And Ace's flashback, I was Sabo and everything. I didn't even watch that one because I don't like Ace as a character. I stated before, I just don't like him. It's clear that Oda knows how to write some of the greatest tragedies and saddest moments in anime, manga, or media history. But it's just that as an author, Ichiro Oda cops out every chance he gets within the present time, because he knows flashbacks can be changed however he wants them to, so they can impact the present day in a way that he doesn't have to kill any characters at the time. But in the flashback, he's free to kill whoever he wants, like Bellemere, as long as so he can fit in perfectly with the things that are happening in the present. These flashbacks feel very human with the events that occurred, like Bellemere taking in Nami and her sister, or the way Brooks' crew was destroyed and he was the last remaining survivor, and especially how Princess Orihime was assassinated by Horty Jones. It feels like no one has any kind of plot armor or protection, but again, he only does this in the past. He never wants to have something happen in the present that'll have an impact on the future of the series. And now for my final point, which would be how to make this series better. Number one, you could just, first of all, take out all the Straw Hats, dump those guys away, just throw them out of the series, because most of them could have died or left the crew already. Luffy could have died any time during Impel Down or Marineford. Zoro should have died of Kuma. Sanji, maybe CP9 or Enies Lobby. He has little effect on the series anyway. Nami should have killed there at Along Park. Robin, CP9. Or even better, instead of having Ace being held at Marineford, have Robin go through Enies Lobby and then take the path to Marineford, and then she could be the one held captive there. Although it make her just another woman to be saved, it would still be better than having Ace scream Luffy for like 4 or 5 how was it, like 8 or 9 episodes, however long it was when Luffy entered Marineford to when he died, which would be, that'd be more like 15 episodes then. And one of the biggest defenders, which would be Usopp, he should have left at Water 7 after he had his fight with Luffy. Like, maybe he could have taken the merry-go and try and go to a new world by himself with it, and then he could just meet Luffy casually later on throughout the series. That would actually be really cool, and maybe Usopp would develop as a character, and physically and like mentally and overall as a character in his scheme, if he was just by himself without any of them to slow him down or just to distract his focus, because he's not going to become a great warrior sea like he is now. Point 2. After they hit the Grand Line, they should have taken a Fate Zero approach to the entire series. Like, we should have seen every other group and what they were doing at that time. So we should have seen members of the Marines. We should have seen Supernovas whenever they were introduced. We should have seen Shichibukai. We should see the Yonko later on, and shift back between the Straw Hats and all of these other groups at the same time. This way, we finally be able to get some character development out of all the other characters besides the Straw Hats. Because when you look at it, characters like Smoker and Kobe and Helmeppo and again, all the Supernovas, the Shichibukai, the Yonko, we know nothing about them, and there's no damn development between all of them. One Piece is some of the most epic moments you'll ever see in shonen, anime, or manga, but it needs to make a choice between either being a comedic adventure or having all of these dark and overlying depressing themes that it tries to enforce, like slavery and racism. Overall, this series shouldn't have been more than 300 to 500 chapters at most, because by chapter like 90 or 100, they had already hit the Grand Line. They were almost there at the end towards to find the One Piece. They were already at the end. All they had to do was a little bit of island hopping, and they'd have hit Raftel, and they'd have found the One Piece. as for what the One Piece is, my theory back then for what it could be was that the One Piece is Haki. So that the person, like, that's what made the Pirate King special. He had the power to use Haki. He could hear everything. He could knock out any opponent he fought, and he was like, he had like the armament, so he could fight any opponent in the world. And that's what made him the One Piece. The person who's going to become the next Pirate King has to inherit Haki from the One Piece. Basically, it'd be the one thing that's unique to Roger that allowed him to become the greatest pirate of all time and be named the Pirate King. At this point though, I can't even take a gander at what the One Piece is going to be because of how this series has gone through so many shifts and changes, and you could call it a series evolving. Like, no, it's like Oda backed out on what the show was originally supposed to be so that it'd be easier for him to write it. I'm not asking him to be like Akira Toriyama and be forcing himself to go through the Z portion of his series, but he should have kept to what it was originally. So those are reasons that I love One Piece, and that's what I think should have been done in order to make the series much, much, much better. But as it is now, it's too late to do any of the things I've already stated.